Jack Latvala, the Obama administration, and Greenlight Pinellas. This is exactly why we need new leadership. What does the Obama administration, Jack Latvala, and Greenlight have in common? A lot. Check out this chart. You'll get to know these names much better. John Procari, Jack Latvala, Parsons Brinckerhoff, and Greenlight Pinellas. For those of you who don't know, Greenlight Pinellas is a plan that has made it to referendum in November where the citizens will pay more in taxes to have a light rail system built. Who exactly is John Procari, and why should we even care? Well, he was appointed by President Obama in 2009 to be the Deputy Secretary of the United States Department of Transportation, and as a very strong and powerful supporter of light rail projects, he met with Pinellas leaders in 2012. On September 19, 2012, Pinellas County leaders listened to Obama's guy, John Procari, who presented Thinking Outside the Fare Box, Creative Approaches to Financing Transit Projects. This is basically a playbook on how to get citizens to pay for transportation projects. This is the formal invitation. Note the players. Our leaders attended this workshop and learned how to not only push for rail projects from its citizens, but how to finance and campaign for them as well. Here is the presentation. If you are interested, go to the website and download the PDF file. Out of this presentation comes a section on political feasibility of rail projects. This is where the politicians gauge the atmosphere of the people prior to putting a sales tax for transportation on the ballot. Greenlight Pinellas has been born. Here is another tidbit from Thinking Outside the Fare Box. How to gain success at the ballot box. This is pretty straightforward. Basically, it's a marketing tool, or a blueprint, on how to get the citizens hyped up for transportation spending. It states that successful ballot measure benefits from the support of public figures, academics, business leaders, and elected officials, all which helps put a face to the issue and bring media attention. Some more great tidbits include Washington's Department of Transportation rules for sales tax rail funding, how it can be used to fund big projects. Sound familiar yet? Here is something found in the presentation that is quite chilling. It's about property taxes and how after a rail project, assessments will go up exponentially, thereby giving more money back to the tax collector to cover construction costs or to make debt service payments. It also says that local success in the years to come will only be responsible with a continued strong partnership with the federal government. Really? What happens after this presentation? Well, Jack Latvala, state senator from District 20, gets very busy. He tries to set up the legislative motions that will push light rail on Pinellas. During the 2012 legislative session, he managed to pass Florida House Bill 599 that requires HART and PSTA to study the possibility of a merger. Mergers mean regional transportation. In November of 2012 and again on January of 2014, both reports at the expense of over $200,000 of taxpayer money turns up as a no-go for regionalization or merger, whichever you prefer to call it. In December 2012, Jack Latvala discusses a sales tax measure to be placed on the ballot in Pinellas County. Latvala publicly states that rail for Pinellas would ultimately be considered a bust if it's not regionalized. Regionalization brings in federal dollars if they could get a grant for it. With that knocked down, where will this rail thing go next? Jack Latvala follows the Obama administration's DOT handbook to the letter for alternative funding. More manipulation will follow, including trying to change the penny for Pinellas to include transportation maintenance. Look it up for yourself. One piece of this Greenlight puzzle is left. Who or what is Parsons Brinckerhoff? In order to know that, we must first know a little bit about Balfour Beatty. Balfour Beatty has a strong presence in Florida. It is a huge United States commercial construction company, owns leaseholds in Monroe County with the U.S. Navy, doesn't want to pay property taxes on its leaseholds, has public-private partnerships with the U.S. government, owes Monroe County $11.4 million in property taxes since 2007, and is the parent company of Parsons Brinckerhoff. During the 2013 Florida legislative session, with Jack Latvala as a strong advocate, Senate Bill 354, called the Ad Valorem Tax Exemptions, is introduced and passed by the Senate. It retroactively exempts these leaseholds from property taxes effective, you guessed it, since 2007. The bill goes to the governor and he vetoes it, but Balfour Beatty takes additional action. But the plot thickens. Remember the Department of Transportation Deputy Secretary John Procari, who was appointed by President Obama? It is announced in December of 2013 that he left the U.S. DOT and goes to work as the Senior Vice President and National Director of Strategic Consulting at Parsons Brinckerhoff. Before he leaves his office, he makes one last push before the Senate to speed up rail projects. This is 1 month after Balfour Beatty brings suit to avoid paying taxes through a loophole for private-public partnerships, and after the veto by Governor Scott. On March 31, 2014, Balfour Beatty wins its lawsuit against the Monroe County tax appraiser. They don't have to pay $11.4 million in taxes to the tax appraiser, and sadly, the county relies heavily on these taxes to fund its educational system. Of course, the tax appraiser wants to appeal this decision. On September 3, 2014, two things happened. The Sunbeam Times reported that Parsons Brinckerhoff donated $50,000 to Greenlight Pinellas. Wow, nice chunk of change there. Coincidentally, Balfour Beatty sells Parsons Brinckerhoff for a whopping $1.35 billion. The money is reported as going to shareholders and towards pension deficits, with nothing to Monroe County. At least Greenlight Pinellas got its share. Now you know how deeply our politicians involve themselves into our pockets while enriching big corporations using our tax dollars. We see how the people are manipulated through our taxation and political processes. There is one piece of sunshine in this election cycle: Tony Casso. He is running against Jack Latvala, and Tony Casso is not for sale. He is the only alternative to politics, as usual, in District 20. He says no to corporate cronyism and yes to the people of Pinellas. He doesn't act like he knows what's best for you, because you know what's best for you. Elect Tony Casso on November 4th. Political advertisement paid for and approved by Tony Casso, Libertarian for State District 20.